All right, whiskey people, we're coming in hot, both figuratively and literally. We're coming in hot on this one. I got Joe O'Sullivan of Minden Mill, and he's going to tell us all about the cool stuff that they're doing over there. And we're going to talk a little backstory of how I got to meet them. And, we're just going to talk shop, and it's going to be awesome. Yeah. So without further ado, here's Joe. Joe, before we were talking before, you're sweltering just as I am, aren't you?
Yeah, Texas is hot, but so is Nevada. We have had some pretty warm weather coming in, even for June, and I'm in my garage right now, which is why if this is streamed live, you can see this beautiful my garage backdrop. I guess just like collections of half-used paint cans are not the appropriate thing for the background of a stream. But yeah, it's hot here. I think we're both in the mid-90s in our respective places.
Mm-hmm. Nice. So that's the cool thing. Like, we can suffer in silence with each other, and we'll just get through it, and we're going to talk about some cool things. So the first question I like to ask, and this is kind of it's an overlay of, it kind of gets us going on the right path. Why whiskey? Why get into whiskey?
Oh, I got into whiskey 20 years ago. I've been distilling since 2005, and I have a biology degree. Like a lot of people, there's so many scientists in our industry. But I will be totally truthful. I like the process more than anything else. And so I got into consuming whiskey by being a distiller. Like I didn't know a whole ton about whiskey before I entered into the field. I just really liked the idea of a challenge. And I had a lot of biology experience. I had a lot of carpentry experience. And in 2005, I was looking for a job. This is way before there was any sort of understanding of craft distillation. I mean, it was when there was still an argument about whether we call it artisanal or craft. That was an actual constant conversation for a few years.
Right.
And we clearly settled on craft. But I was at Clear Creek Distillery in 2005. I needed a job. Steve McCarthy, who was the third craft distiller in the U.S., he was the one that started all in Oregon and Portland before anyone else. He hired me, and he needs somebody to fix a bunch of barrels, because Steve was a great distiller and a terrible cooper. I can say that because he would admit to it as well.
Right.
And so he just needs somebody to come in and fix stuff. And I came in that way. And to me, it was pretty obvious that if wine had the certain projection, and beer had the certain projection of going from small businesses and then getting so much attention and then being a movement, why wouldn't that happen with whiskey and brandy and everything else?
Right. Absolutely. And I will say you're in very good company going to Clear Creek, because I just had Caitlin on recently, and she's a wealth of knowledge and knows all about her brand. But like, I feel like just that place over there, I've never been, and it's on my bucket list. Obviously, that place over there is just, they're doing everything and they're doing it the right way. So
yeah, I was Caitlin's boss Caitlin's boss for like close to a decade or something like that, at least 7 years.
Okay. So I had the apprentice on before the boss. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
She's still doing good? I know she's still doing good.
Oh yeah, she's doing amazing. They're coming out with really cool stuff. Obviously I am a smoky, Scotchy style, whiskey person. So that McCarthy's, it just sings to me. And they have so many SKUs underneath their brand that they're just, everything they do, from their pear brandy to it's pretty phenomenal. But anyway, we're not here talking about them. It's just funny, the correlation, because everybody has whiskey friends, right? We all have whiskey friends, and it's just funny how everybody is connected in some point, right? In the distilling industry, there's amongst the folks that have been doing it for a decade or more, there's not that many, and so we all know each other really well, and we're all very close. I mean, that's one of that to me, if anyone wants to take anything away from any podcast I'm ever on, is that the community of distillers and how we support each other, and whether it's within your own business or like with us all at Minden Mill, or whether it's across the entire community, big or small, everyone's amazing and so supportive and so generous. Yep. Absolutely. Absolutely. So you went to Clear Creek to fix barrels. So were they just janky barrels, or were they being recharred, or
A janky, I think, is the better way of saying it. The mean old days, everybody was really bootstrapped, and
right.
so when you're making apple brandy and you're making American single malt, you can really use whatever barrel you want. So keeping those barrels alive was really, really important. And McCarthy's has a pretty unusual barrel program, which is, you have a series of first fills, thirds, seconds, whatever, and it's all moved around fairly frequently. And so you really need all those barrels, and they were just put together in some of the funniest ways, with hoops going in every other direction, and they all still leaked, and they were way too dry. And so I went down to Oregon Barrel Works, spent a day or two with Rick DeFerrara, who is an amazing cooper, and he just showed me the ropes of basic repair cooperage. How to drive hoops, how to insert flagging, how to take out a head and put in crow's paste, and then reinstall the head, all the things that you need to do just to keep barrels going. And we did. And we were truly a DIY distillery.
I love that. I love that, because anytime they brought you in for that, but anytime you outsource and say, hey, I got to call a cooper in to fix these barrels or whatever, you're going to pay 3-4 times the amount of money that you probably should on it. So having somebody in-house that can do that and keeping it all in-house, like I said, it just, I don't know, to me, it makes a big difference. It keeps you're able to fix the problem right away. And also it doesn't go too long. You're not having to wait for which I'm sure you're always having to wait for, stuff to come in and wait for shipments and stuff like that. Because as we well know today, the shipping department in the world is not the greatest right now. I don't know what the deal is with most of it. I was shipping a couple hand delivering a couple of samples to people, and they said, oh, they'll be there Tuesday. They didn't show up till that next Thursday, and I'm like, literally, I could drive it there faster than that. It's pretty crazy. But getting back to the story, so were you having to do any of the recharring, or what do they call it, shaving?
Yeah, STR, shave, toast, rechar.
Yeah,
no, I didn't. That's more advanced than anything I can do. That gets chopped out. I don't have the. I mean, I would love to try. Don't trust me. It's not a lack of bravery. It's a complete lack of finances to put in something like that. It's amazing though, seeing the people who do it. I mean, it's just to give people an idea. Number 3 char is only about 30 seconds of flame. It's barely anything, and so. 30 to 45, I think, is what they typically say. And there's a lot of vagary around some of these terms, that a number 3 to one person might be a number 2 to another. It really depends on where you're getting it from. But in general, 30 to 45 seconds is all it takes to bring that back to number 3. And that's that's not a lot of time. So the action of it sounds like a lot of fun. I've been able to see it in person. And once they introduce that oxygen into the barrel for the charring process, it throws a flame. I mean, it'll throw it 10 feet. It's wild looking.
Yeah, no. And it's so cool how cause you hear about, and I know one of the local to me distilleries, Balcones, they always use very old casks. They'll get old wine casks that are the 700 liter tons, and they're out there recharring them and fixing them and doing all the things. And it's just so cool, the heritage and lineage of that barrel, that one specific barrel, how much time, and it could be from the early 1900s or something like that, how much time that barrel has seen spirit in it, or might have fish, who knows, but how much time it really saw, and what the world was going through. I've been, I'm gonna caveat in this, but I just did a book club over the lost history of Tennessee whiskey by Drew Hennish. And
Drew, what a
Drew,
great guy.
Drew, I actually had him on the podcast. We went through all of the things. It was a lot of fun. And so my head is really into history right now, and it's all about that history in the barrel as well, because if you get a brand new barrel, they're great, don't get me wrong, because they have a lot of potential, right? and it's great for bourbons, obviously, and things like that. But when you have a barrel that's been aged for a long time, and you get an old Lafroig barrel that's been sitting around for 30 years, and you're doing something else to it, and then and then you give it to the meadery guy or the beer guy, and then everybody has their play with it, and it's just so cool to see how in lack of better words, that barrel turns into the town bicycle. Everybody gets a little ride on it, and it's kind of fun to see where the wood takes you. And we could sit here and talk about wood all day, but we have other things to talk about. But I'm just saying that to me is really intriguing.
Oh, absolutely. I think one of my favorite things I've ever done as a professional is I did a specialty alongside Caitlin. I did a specialty finish for the Multnomah Whiskey Library, and it was using, if I recall right, a 45-year-old Park Cognac barrel.
Oh my!
And we did a pretty good job of tracing it back as far as we could. I spent like a whole day doing a bunch of research on the cooperage, and it was tracked down to just one artisanal barrel maker in that part of France with no name, just some probably expert, amazing cooper that the world will never see the likes of again. And it just over a 45-year period. I mean, I'm 47 now. At the time, it was a couple years older. It was a couple years older than I was. So I'd say I was 43 at the time.
Right.
Just to know that this thing existed before me, that there was an act of creation that went into doing that. And that even 3 years before that, they were air drying the staves for years. And it just, that whole experience. I mean, this tree, this is a 200-year-old wood, possibly. You just don't know. And
absolutely.
so there is that curtain of only as far back as you can see. But what you can see is so inspiring. And it definitely makes you have a more intense eye on the finishing process and the pride you take in it.
Okay. So you're at Clear Creek, you're fixing barrels, you're running shop over there. You're yelling at everybody, telling them what to do. I'm paraphrasing, but that's what you said, right?
No. It's extremely accurate. Yeah.
Okay.
I at one point I was the deputy mayor of the town that our newest apprentice was in, and he also was my his father-in-law and his mother-in-law were my neighbors, and I was also officiated his wedding.
Wow.
And I was his boss. And so I kind of had total control of these people for a little while. And I called them every name I could because I knew that they couldn't do anything about it.
Absolutely. One of the things that I'm done after talking about this. One of the things that Caitlin told me was, she said, as soon as you step on the distillery grounds, you're a tool. That is it. You are a piece of machinery to get the job done. It doesn't matter who you are, what you are, how you felt that day. Suck it up, Buttercup. Get to work. I'm not going to say unfortunate. Fortunately, that's how it's supposed to be, right? Like you can go deal with your stuff later on. We got work to do today. And it's really cool that just seeing that dynamic. Okay, so you're at Clear Creek doing your thing. What transitions you away from that?
Initially, it was just kind of looking at opportunities to grow. I mean, you could see this is now we're looking at back in 2008, 2009, and it was obvious to me that after a couple times where the New York Times interviews your distillery, that there's a future in this. And despite what everyone told me that it would be a foolish idea, I was like, well, I'm gonna move to New York City. There were no distilleries at the time in New York City, so I moved there. And for about a year, I kind of shot myself around. I worked on a moving truck to make ends meet. Did a little bit of carpentry when I was there to make ends meet, and waited basically for opportunities to prove myself. And I had worked with a few different distilleries there, as well as a few different breweries and a kombucha place of all things, just as a consultant. And then I went on to run for a number of years Green Hook Gin Smiths. I had not made gin at the time. They had this really cool vacuum still. And so this was another way for me to become intimate with a whole different type of still that a lot of people don't have experience with. And working with Steve D'Angelo there and everything we were making was a ton of fun. After, maybe 5 years in New York, I realized that despite as hard as I could, I was never going to be able to really own a chunk of that city.
Right.
And also at the end of the day, I'm kind of more of a small town guy anyway.
Right. Absolutely.
And so I moved back to the Northwest. I knew that Clear Creek had been purchased by Hood River Distillers at that time, and I moved back. I hedged my bets, and I said, I have a lot of experience with this place. I not a lot of folks know how to make pear brandy. Caitlin, I didn't know each other. I knew who she was anytime I'd stop by, echoing exactly what she said. Anytime I stopped by, you could tell who was working extremely hard, and it was Caitlin. It was every time Caitlin. So I always remembered her who she was, her face, her voice. I always said hello to her. And after that, returning and working as a carpenter again for a year, the HRD offered me the job as head distiller for Hood River Distillers, which would include the actual deconstruction and rebuilding of Clear Creek Distillery from Portland to Hood River, and just worked with all the riggers. I cut the stills apart myself, deconstructed everything, packed it all away, packed every single barrel, only dropped one, and which is pretty good. I still my most shameful moment.
Right.
And then moved it to Hood River. And then Caitlin and I started working really closely together. It really isn't in totally. It's not really accurate these days to call her, to refer to me as her former boss or anything. She's as much of a distiller as I will ever be, and then probably 10 times more. She's phenomenal, and
Absolutely.
So working with her was really, really fundamental for me. Did that, I think, for 7 years, and then got a call from Minden Mill, and that this was going to be the newest effort of the Foley family wines to add spirits into it. And they saw that I had experience with multiple distilleries, that I was part of this larger portfolio that included craft and mass market. Because at the time, HRD was making Pendleton. So that was everything from anything as big as that to really esoteric pear brandy. So if you can cover that breadth, I know there's a lot of distillers out there who just want to be part of the of the most passionate aspects of our craft. But I always like seeing as much of it as I can. And if that means making HRD vodka, I'm darn proud of that. If that means flying to Canada and working with the Pendleton folks, I'm darn proud of that. If that makes making McCarthy's and pear brandy and now Minden Mill, which wait until we get into what we're doing here. I am so proud of all of those efforts, because there's a huge team that I am representing, and that I get to claim as being one of them. And that's right. A tremendous honor.
That is, I mean, and the fact that they're like, okay, you have this background, we need you. So if you can say, and if you can't, that's fine. How was it leaving a place like Hood River, and being like, this is I don't want to say the pinnacle, because there's always bigger and better, right? But like, this is a place, and from what I can tell, the way you're talking, this is a place that you really enjoyed.
Oh yeah, tremendously.
And so like I don't want to put words in your mouth, but like I bet it was fairly difficult for you to just pack up and leave.
It was really hard. Boys also cry. I definitely cried.
Absolutely.
I could recognize it was a good opportunity for me. It also allowed me to make space for Caitlin so she could rise up a little bit. I was always going to be in her way. And quite honestly, that wasn't where she needed to be. She needed to be at a higher level. And I didn't like being a roadblock. So it helped with that. But there was such a temptation in being part of an estate distillery. And we'll get more into that in a moment, but being part of what we're doing at Minden, growing our own grain, the technology that we have, that even though I was incredibly comfortable on my couch in the Northwest, and I had worked out the perfect schedule where I kind of could exploit everyone else to do my job for me. And I just kind of didn't do anything. Caitlin would definitely argue with that. But that's my own self-defacing humor. But yeah, even though I'd worked out a really good routine and I was in a great spot, it was just, okay, this is a new opportunity and life is made for adventures. And so let's try one. And I moved sight unseen over 3 weeks between getting the job offer to when I was moving into a rental, 3-week period into Carson City, Nevada.
Wow. And then you're going from Oregon to Nevada. That's a different climate in itself.
Climate's nothing. We're at 5,000 feet here. It took me like 2 months to learn how to drink more than a beer and a half. The altitude is it really does get to you. I mean, I would walk down to the store and just be like really winded for a little while.
That's so funny because like when you talk to people up in like Colorado and places like that, they're like, yeah, it's not that big of a deal once you get used to it. And it's like, well, you have to get used to it. That's
getting used to it is the hard part.
Yeah, exactly. So so sight unseen, you're just like pack up and let's go and hope and a prayer. Let's go and see what happens.
Extremely supportive spouse, just amazingly supportive wife.
And I will tell you, and not very many people have talked about this. I've had a couple, but I can tell you from my personal experience, just in doing this podcast or whatever, having an extremely supportive spouse is the best thing to have because we were just eating dinner before I stepped in here, and she's like, well, what am I going to do while you're gone? Like this whole thing, like she's very supportive, but then at the same time, like, I hate to say this, she like misses that I'm gone, which I'm like, hey, I'm trying to do this for all of us. It's one of those things. Yeah. And so having that support group there, it just makes that transition that much easier, I'm sure.
Yeah, I couldn't have done it without Janet, and I certainly couldn't have done it without the support of the people who work at Minden now. I'd known a few of them for, a few years at least, and I know Johnny Jeffrey, the former me, when it was under its previous ownership. I had known Johnny for, I don't know, maybe a decade or so. And so there really was this very natural transition where I was able to work with the people who were there before me, and being the new guy, but having a higher position can be kind of awkward at times. Right. The best thing I can do is acknowledge that it's okay to be awkward, even if you're in a leadership position, because everyone is always going to be, but it doesn't make you any less of an authority. I had decades of experience, and I was ready to come in and try something new. And to me, I just get excited about things. If Minden were to tomorrow just become a potato ranch, I would probably still have a lot of fun. I get curious. I deep dive into things. Whiskey is and will always be a fascinating place for me, but I can't say that it's that I wouldn't be so passionate about everything. It's just these avenues of deep science and really getting into production and understanding what I'm learning about now, which is soil nutrients. Fascinating, unbelievably fascinating to learn more and more about soil nutrients. That might be the lamest sentence I've ever said on a podcast, but to me, it's really true.
It's not because you're calling to me as well, because I've been, okay. Caveat, but we've been gardening for a while, right? And so soil nutrient and watering schedules and all of those things are very important. And if you have off pH balance and stuff like that, it really makes a difference. And it just makes everything, not only the plants that you're trying to grow, but it makes everything different. It makes the whole ecosystem a little bit different around it. And so I'm totally with you about deep diving into something, because I think that's the inquisitive mind that not everyone, there's some people that can just check boxes, put numbers in, no big deal. But there's some of us out there that are like, I need to know more, I was always fascinated with that show that was on TV, How It's Made. Yeah. Because I wanted to know how crap was made. Like, how do you make this cell phone? How do you make this, glass bottle, whatever? How do you make these things? And the ones that intrigued me the most were when it got really nerdy and really deep. And I'm like, why do I like this? And I see my son, he's 12. I see my son getting into the same things. He nerds out on baseball statistics and stuff like that. And I'm like, yes, be a baseball announcer. I'll retire. It'll be fine. Do that. Yeah.
You'll buy me a couple of houses.
Exactly. So it's like, do what you love, right? It doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be whiskey. Now, I will say, obviously, you're a whiskey distiller. I have a whiskey podcast. It's a thing, right? But that's not all. That's not the end all be all. And that's kind of where I've been trying to wrap my head around, is like, whiskey's great and I love it, and it's a part of my life. I'll tell you that, but it's not all of life, right? So it's getting into just nerding out about something. And because they say idle hands, so, you want to nerd out on something definitely positive, not something negatively infecting your life for sure.
I was just talking to a friend about the same sort of thing, and he's a wonderful guy, former bartender, works for a Hawaiian distillery. And he was saying to me, he's like, oh, you have like, about whiskey and it satisfies your soul. And I had to stop him for a second. I said, no, honestly, like my soul is satisfied by my marriage and by music and my pets. And I love to cook. And this nurses my soul, because tomorrow, I mean, I'm an extremely lucky guy to do this, but I don't know what tomorrow will be. And maybe I'm no longer a distiller in 10 years. That soul will still be nourished by these things I keep so close to me. But what the freedom of separating that passion out does is allows you to play. And all of a sudden your ego's out of it. And so being wrong is not a big deal. And experimentation becomes a lot more honest and exciting, because it's okay if things don't go your way. Right. And so that aspect of it is something that's like that curious mind, that approach to things. It becomes this new driver that's a little bit separate than the explanations of artistic and craft that we tend to have, which is, maybe keeping yourself a millimeter divorced from it is the best way to get good at what you're doing and to find excitement in it every day, but never have to deal with the frustration of it hurting you personally.
I love that. I love that, because, when I, and I'm not trying to talk about myself the whole time, I'm sorry, but when I, first started this podcast, I was coming at it very selfish. I don't want to say selfishly, but coming at it more selfishly. And then it took me a while, and going through some medical issues, for me to step back from that and be like, this matters because it feeds my soul. Like you're saying, it feeds me, but it doesn't matter. Like, this isn't, my family's here. I have people that love me, and I'm not trying to talk about this, but this is the Whiskey Shaman podcast. So, it made me a lot more spiritual, it made me just get closer to the things that I truly loved. And then it made me kind of shift focus on this show. And if you go back to my catalog, you can see the shift actually happening. And it's really kind of cool. It's like history making itself. And I think that's so cool. Like you were saying, divorcing yourself just a little bit from it to where it feels new and exciting. Like, and that's where I think a lot of, and not to pick on heritage brands, because they're doing a thing, they know what they're doing. People buy their stuff every day, but I feel like they're so entrenched in it that it is so hard for them to step back and look at, are we doing this just to make money, or are we doing this because it makes us happy?
Yeah. Yeah. And if you get it right, you can do both, which is wonderful. I can't believe I figured that one out. Yeah. But I wouldn't trade my career for anything in the world. When I talk about Steve McCarthy, I often say that one of the reasons I'm so grateful for my experience with him is that in my mind, I keep a separate dimension where there's another me, and I'm sure they're very happy, but they're not as happy as this one. And that all goes back to that one man who gave me a shot. Because he was lousy at fixing barrels.
Hey, and you know what? And another thing that we have to do as humans, and I will throw this part in there, and especially as men, we have to learn to delegate. We cannot fix the world. I'm sorry. You are good at this. Do this and do it well. You're not an electrician, so don't play electrician, right? Like, stay in your lane, do the thing that you know how to do. And yes, you need to be especially as a distiller. I don't know this personally, but especially as a distiller, you have to know how to do a little bit of everything, right? If a pump breaks, you got to know how to fix it. If you got some wiring issues, you got to know how to fix those. But like, you have to also know when to phone a friend, and be like, hey buddy, I need help. And I think that means a lot when people can step back and say, hey, I don't know, and I need to figure this out. So it's really interesting.
Definitely, if it says 3-phase on there, I step away.
Yeah. That'll hurt you. That will hurt you very bad. Yeah. I'm a plumber by trade, so I don't deal with electrical that often. I deal with other things that people don't want to deal with, so it's fine. But anytime I'm
quick shout out to Anderson Plumbing, who kept me employed from when I was 20 to 21. Steve Anderson, great plumber, was I didn't appreciate what he was trying to teach me at the time, but the guy really taught me a lot.
Most people don't, because the way I've been doing this for like 25 years. So the way I was taught was, you got a pipe wrench thrown at you. You didn't cut the pipe straight. They threw it back at you, you didn't get to eat lunch, that type of thing. Whereas now it's a little bit different. People are, have a little bit of a different outlook on it, but yeah.
I worked for one guy that was Steve's dad, who was like the most old time plumber of all time. If you left your hammer or something, and let's say you were doing something on the roof or whatever, 'cause sometimes you got to go up high.
Right.
If you left it, you took it out of your tool belt, put it down, he would throw it off the roof and make you go get it. So you would never take it off your tool belt again.
That's just how you learn. Don't do that. You know,
yeah. He was right, because they can fall on somebody. He was totally right.
Absolutely.
But yeah, it was a funny way of doing it. He's like, go get it. You can't take it off.
Yeah. And I think that's and I'm sure it has to do with distilling as well, right? There are these tricks of the trade that you just either know them or you don't know them. And I know every still is different. Every still house is different. Every fermenter's different. I get all that. But like, there are just things that you just have to hard knocks life, go in there and learn them. Unfortunately, you're going to have to pull a bung and have it spray all over you, or you're going to have to, check the fermenter and it's going to be a sour, or, there's these things you're going to have to do to get your dues paid, I guess. I hate to say it like that, but yeah, I mean,
you're going to have to drop something on your foot before you learn to wear boots.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. Walking around the still house in Crocs isn't gonna help you.
Yeah.
All right. So you're headed to Minden Mill.
Yeah.
Okay. So give me a little background on them before you got there. And then we'll go in when you took over and just kind of take it from there.
So Minden Mill began life as a place called Bentley Heritage. And so they started making product in 2019. And then basically COVID came in and really did a number on it. Right around the time that they were starting to get ready to release some of their first whiskeys, and at least contemplating it, because they had started off with a vodka and a gin. COVID came in. I mean, it was one of those early start distilleries that just didn't make it through, but the place was amazing. And when I say it's amazing, like, let me just derail for a second to describe how amazing this is.
Do it.
It's a campus, which is one of the wild things you can say about a distillery. You can see part of it in the image behind me. We are on the Register of Historic Buildings. This is the tallest building in Minden, Nevada. It's an old, the mill part of it, where we make our single malt, is an old mill. So only over the period of more than 100 years, it's only processed grain in two different ways. For our single malt still distillery half, we're using a thermal oil calandria. So instead of heating up low pressure steam hold on a second. Can we mute this? My cat is taking a dump. Okay. I'm going to turn off my mic.
That's fine.
Gonna be.
Yeah. It's you know what? Life happens in the middle of life. So, it's a thing. When you got to go, you got to go.
Yeah. Maybe cut out the part where I said my cat's taking a dump, but
I'll do it. Cat taking a dump. Got it.
Now I have to live with this for a moment. So back where I was. Yeah, so we use a thermal oil calandria. And what's really unique about this is that when you're working with a low pressure steam system, the majority of stills are going to be low pressure steam. You really don't want to put a ton of pressure into a unit like that. They're really big. They usually hold about 10 PSI. So you're only going to hit about 120 degrees Celsius, which is about 40 degrees less than the Maillard reaction, which is what puts all that sear on steak and what makes toast better than bread, just because one man or woman a long time ago got it too close to a fire and discovered that toast is awesome. That's all the Maillard reactions. Very important for creating these complex fatty amino acids and esters that are part of it. And so we're actually using something that heats a mineral oil, no different than you would put on your cutting board. And that goes through an insert, but we can cook at 185 degrees Celsius. So we're replicating direct fire distillation in a very safe manner. That is going into 2 fourth size stills So the folks that made Macallan in the story of that is that we ordered it. We thought it was going to be about a 6-month lead time. They told us, sorry, man, it's 3 years. Macallan just put in an order for 31 new stills. Back in the Bentley days, they flew Richard out. He's the patriarch. He took a look at what we're doing. They explained that this is an estate distillery. We want to make everything as traditional as possible using modern technology, and showed him the thermal oil calandria, which we were the first distillery in the world to do that. And he said, when do you want those stills? And 2 weeks later, we got notification that it was going to come from customs. It still says on the stripping still, Macallan number 9. So we jumped the line on Macallan, which is really wild to see that. Okay, I'm really starting to get excited when they're showing me around this place. And it's beautiful. It's like a temple to distillation. And then we move into the bourbon and rye half, and it's this massive Christian Carl still. And I had already built one of these stills years earlier. And this is the one that's at Clear Creek now. I assembled that one myself with a man named Ted Weber in a forklift, which is all you really need in 2 weeks, and a lot of cussing and a lot of luck. And so beautiful, beautiful still. Everything is automated. We're not dragging hoses. We're not moving pumps. It's all just a push of a button. There's over 7 miles of communication cable in that one building itself. Wow. That we're using wooden fooders so we can get a little bit of a house bug, same way that you would have any sort of in-house palate and flavor derived. And it's all being stripped through a head frame stripping still. So we have an economic engine of getting just the stripping done on a continuous method, but all the shaping of the product is being done on this Swiss Army knife Christian Carl still with these 2 beautiful columns if we want to run vodka. The barrel houses are the rickhouses. We're at about an average of a 10% absolute humidity here, dry as hell. Like you, I really feel for Jared and all the boys at Balcones now. That is rough. And so we have a very similar lack of humidity. Climate control became incredibly important to us, and so one of our rickhouses that they showed me was climate controlled to Bardstown, Kentucky, and the other one to Belinda Lock, Scotland. So there's this one spot in the middle of this tiny town in northern Nevada where you can walk into you can be in the dusty, dry environment of Nevada, walk 10 feet through a doorway, and you are in the subtropical humidity of Kentucky. And then you just go right down to the next building down, and you are in this chilly coastal environment of Scotland. And that was phenomenal to me to be able to see that. We have dunnage racks in the single malt distillery or single malt rickhouse. We have traditional ricks in the Bardstown, which is only for rye and only for bourbon. And that one, and just seeing all that was great. But what blew me away the most is that we're an estate distillery. So for those who want to know what that is as defined in the state of Nevada, it means that 85% of the grain that we ferment, any of our fermentables actually, has to come from land that we control ourselves. We can lease the land. We don't have to own the land, but we have to be the ones that determine all the factors. Planting, what's being planted, nutrition, harvest schedule, everything has to come down to us. This is fully everything that we're putting into our bottle. 100% is coming from land that we control. And it's only about 2 or 3 miles away from the distillery. So all of this is happening within a 5-mile circle of the distillery. And it's bringing to everyone else this interesting sense of terroir. And I know that that's not always the most accepted concept within whiskey, but it truly is there. Winter rye is not particularly different from one place or another. It's not like you're dealing with, a blue corn versus a yellow dent versus an Indian corn. Like winter rye, it's kind of just winter rye. And so growing it up here at this high altitude, growing it in these dry conditions, growing it where 2 Wednesdays ago, just randomly, no one ever cared, 85-mile-an-hour winds. I mean, it was just blowing up here because we're just right down the road from Lake Tahoe. I mean, we're on top of a mountain. And exposing it to that conditions, you see the manifestation of the grain take on new flavors. And this is something that we helped co-write this law. If we want to continue distilling under our distillery license, we have to adhere to these rules. within our operations. And we aren't the only ones. The Estate Whiskey Alliance out of the University of Kentucky, the Beam Institute, they're all jumping onto this concept of estate distillation and what it means and what that will be for the future. You're going to see a lot more of it in the upcoming year or so.
Yeah, correct me if I'm wrong. Isn't Frey Ranch also estate?
Yeah. Frey is also estate. They are about 3-4 hours away from us here.
Okay.
Really good folks. The thing that would bum me out the most is if people ever thought that we were at odds. It's nothing could be further from the truth. Colby and Ashley are great people. I've only met them a couple of times, and it was briefly, but really enjoyed them, and they seem to really get the same values that I'm all about, and they make a great product. So I don't want anyone taking away that we're competitors. We'll let the market sort that out.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, and you're not like your competition with them isn't really, it's like it is comparing apples to apples, really. It's not, you're not like Smoke Wagon. I'm sorry. I said it. I'm sorry.
I'm going to be totally silent on that one. So that's
please do. That is my opinion only. Anyway, so let's move on. So this distillery sounds amazing. You're walking around with your jaw trying to pick it up off the floor going, oh, wow, I actually get to work here. So tell us about like the first day, the first week of jumping in.
Completely realize that this is what a lifetime of being a fraud gets you, is you get exposed in front of all your new coworkers as being a complete fraud. I would say that at no point in my life was I hit as badly by imposter syndrome as that, because it's all new technology. It's a new size of grain production. McCarthy's is rather small, despite being very well respected. It's still a very small production, and I'd spent so much time with orchards that I understood fruit trees, but I didn't really understand grain. And so this was a big challenge for me to come in. I did a ton of reading. There's a number of fantastic books out there to learn about malt and malting. And that's the other thing, is we also have a malt house and we malt our barley.
Like one does.
Yeah. So we've been, so I come in, and it really was, I spent the first day and I spent the first few months, maybe even till now, where I'm really starting to feel comfortable in my role and understanding the totality of how this stuff goes and all of the different temperatures and all the different enzymes. And I finally now kind of have the grasp on it that I had hoped to when I came in that day. But at the same time, we've still achieved a lot as a distillery, and with the support of everyone I work with, I think it's been a tremendous success. Because even though we're new, we're really swinging for the bleachers on this one. Like we're going as far as we can.
Yeah, it sounds like it. Just some of the words that you said, I was like, hold on, I need to Google that because I don't know what that means. So I get what you're saying, and you guys trying to do everything, and everything. In-house. Obviously there's some things you're not going to make your own bottles. I get that. But like in a distillery like that, obviously yourself is there, but like how big of a crew do you guys have to have that much of a, you have maltsters, you have, all of the things. How many people are on payroll out there?
In production, there's 11, and everyone wears multiple hats. So, just today I was on the bottling line. It's just, we all do it all, and that to me that's where the heart of this craft is that it's the hierarchy starts to disappear when everybody's just in front of the bottling line and wanting to get off. I'm not going to complain too much about bottling. It's a great opportunity to hang out with your coworkers when sometimes you're just in front of your desk or away with the sales team for a week or two. And that is often the role of the master distiller these days, as an overseer, but at the same time, you're very, very public facing. And so you don't spend as much time with the crew as you used to. Yeah. But that is what's really great about those days. And we do a lot for 11 people, and that's including maintenance, that's including administration. Like we have a very efficient crew and a bunch of extremely dedicated people.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So what were you bottling, if you don't mind me asking?
I can't answer that one, unfortunately.
Oh, man.
I know, it really sucks. It's an upcoming project.
Okay.
It's an upcoming project for another distiller who's associated with Foley. It wouldn't take much effort to find out who this other individual might be.
Right.
You had mentioned Balcones, and they may have had former ties to them.
Okay.
And so but I can't go too much into it without authorization.
I understand. No.
All I can say is that it's very cool, and there's a lot of really good things that we're doing even if it's not Minden products, that the whole Foley portfolio is really neat right now.
Absolutely. That's awesome. So I was expecting you to say, oh, we were bottling rye whiskey again or something like that.
Oh, no, it's something way more fun than that. But it's exactly. I really wish I could tell you.
No, it's fine. It's fine. We'll talk off camera. No. But no. And here's the thing, like, obviously, because we all have to dip outside sometimes, and we all have to just kind of help people and do things. And so like, I know I've gone on other people's podcasts to help them out. And so like, I get where the whole, and I don't know if you guys do contract distilling and stuff as well, but it's really cool. And to go back to what you were saying about wearing multiple hats, and also the master distiller actually not doing the distilling a whole lot of time. You're basically running around, being the show person, going to, tasting events and, festivals and stuff, which is fun. Don't get me wrong. It's fun, but like, it takes you away from the still, it takes you away from doing the thing that you were hired on to do, which you're hired on to be a part of the brand. I get it, but it kind of does take you away from it. Do you ever get to distill anymore?
Yeah. I mean, I get to do new product development, which is wonderful because I get to be with the team when we are as a group distilling and deciding when our cuts are going to be. I get to work with the marketing team to understand what the store is going to be. The vodka, the Evil Bean, these are all things that the high ground vodka, Evil Bean, coffee liqueur, these are all things that were brought on through my time at Minden Mill, and they're both doing fantastic. I mean, Evil Bean, I know it's just a coffee liqueur, and that's this whiskey podcast, but it's really
it's
doing
fine.
things for us. And I mean, they got double gold. Like that's still it's still something to get for a liqueur. And
absolutely.
I do get to have my share for sure. It's the day-to-day production work that I don't tend to do so much anymore. And honestly, after 20 years, I'm okay with that. This role. The role of a master distiller when I started, it was very, very different, mostly because no one was looking to talk to us at that time. Like you had to fight your way to just get one sale in one liquor store in New York City. You had to aggressively. Steve McCarthy did it all the time. I mean, I used to see him out traveling as much as he can. So in that way, it hasn't really changed too much, but now people pay attention to us. And so there's opportunities to be on podcasts, to being in an article, to describe the passion that you have, the efforts of what the meaning of your distillery is, and as well as to represent the hard work of others. Like that's kind of a big part of your job these days. And so to John and to Kerry, to Noya and Chelsea and Bryce and everyone else at Minden, thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. I do miss distilling I love new product development. I'll put it that way. I love those moments of new product development. I love getting something out in the market. By the time it's done, I'm ready to see it go. But that initial taking something from formulation to this is how it's executed well in a production facility in an easy manner as best as you can achieve at that time, that is thrilling to me. And I typically have a very hard time turning over ownership of a product until it is, in my mind, easy to do. And I'll hold on to it pretty I don't delegate great until that moment. And then once it's easy and it's something that I can work out and I know it's not going to be a big pain in the ass, that's when I there goes my cat. It's not going to be a big pain in the ass. that's when I'm really happy to turn it over and to
Mhm.
see everyone else take their takes on it. Because I'll tell you, every single time, I think it's at least 90% complete into the easy mode, and within a week or two, somebody that I've turned it over to has found solutions to problems that I didn't know were there,
Wow.
or found workarounds that I just never even considered. And that it's that second layer of refinement, that like that editor's pen that
Mhm.
the rest of the team has, that spreads the ownership of a product. And whether it's initially from me or not, it ultimately just belongs to everyone who works there.
So basically, by the time it hits bottle, it is, obviously, as a distiller and as a company, it's good, it's ready to bottle, it's whatever, but it's never, and I've, how like I make barbecue a lot. So whenever I make barbecue, I'm like, yeah, it's good, but I could have done better. Does
Yeah.
that ever hit you? Does that ever come across and you're like, man, this is an amazing single malt or whatever we're doing at this point. This is amazing, but man, I just wish it had this. Do
Yeah.
you get that all the time?
Yeah, I get really excited about some of the things that I've made, but I don't think any of them. The best you're going to get is that is with a specialty release. That
Mm.
Park Cognac barrel that I did, for example, like that was its own refined version of something,
Mhm.
and it was exciting, and I wanted to do it 20 more times. But eventually, I would be like, yeah, it was really fun. I need to move on. It's not scratching that itch anymore. I need to do
Right.
something new.
Right.
And that is, that continued desire to refine, to have forward vision, to understand what you're making and what you're going to be making in 10 years. Because when we're talking about what we're planting, like we have to consider, usually it's
Yep.
about 2 years in advance. And so we
Yeah.
really have to be aware of what last year's crop was, what we're going to be going into, and what projections are for 10 years in the future, and trying to create a direction for all of that is super satisfying.
Yeah.
And so, while you're not distilling so much anymore and turning valves, I mean, when I was started at Clear Creek, it was direct fire days, and no one's really
Mm.
doing that anymore. I understand why,
Yeah.
but now that it's so much more automated, like, I miss those old days where I was, sweating in a hot room, turning valves all the time? Like, yeah, but do I enjoy what I'm doing now? Yeah, it's all different. It's all different parts of the river that makes your
Mm.
career. And so
Absolutely.
I'm not going to be too nostalgic for any of it. I'm just going to be appreciative for what I got.
Absolutely. And you said something earlier, just a second ago, about the different grains coming in yearly. Now, obviously, there's going to be, even if it's the same crop, being that you guys, are doing most of this stuff yourself. There is variation in the corn, the wheat, the rye, all
Oh,
that.
oh yeah.
So now, do you make that public, saying this batch? I guess that's why it's called a batch, or this year's, is it like a vintage, or
Mm.
what? Because I mean, there would have to be a strong enough variation. I'm sure you could probably blend it out. I'm sure you got some great
Yeah.
blenders and stuff, but do you think of the vintage in that, to where every year is a little bit different? You might have been a little hotter, a little cooler. You got more rain that year, just depending. How does that play with the grain profile, especially in your guys' type of environment?
Yeah, it can really create some pretty dramatic changes. And do we make it public? I mean, I don't know if we have enough information yet to really know what things will look like. I don't think, I certainly don't,
Right.
where I feel confident making those sort of recommendations. We're going to be churning out the best of everything we can. When you talk about, having good blenders, like we got the best blender. John Crumbly's amazing. But I will say that bad years in grain are not all that different than bad years in pears. There was plenty of years where we would get a late freeze in the spring that would kill off that first blossom of pear buds, and the second one is never as good, and the third one is terrible. So if you get two freezes, you're absolutely up the creek. But last year for rye, for example, we had a heat wave come in just as literally the same 3-4 days that the rye went to seed. We lost 2/3 of our rye crop in a week. And luckily we have, plenty in the silos. We're good, but it'll be really interesting to see how the difficult grow season affects things 5 years from now,
Right.
or 4 years from now when you go to release it.
Right.
And I'm fully expecting it to have a difference. Will it make it more interesting? I don't think it's going to make it bad.
No.
I think it might just be variations of the same thing. It'll be different intensities of the same color. And so, it's just going to be a little bit more spicy, maybe a little bit more citrus. And that'll be kind of an interesting thing to play with as time goes on, is how do you best manage the cards you're dealt? Because that's a huge part of being a distiller, is the reality that everything is going to have its own challenges.
Yeah, because not only is every grain different, every barrel is different, every spot in the warehouse is different. So you are literally fighting against yourself the whole time, trying to get, like how these big guys do it. They have 10 million barrels. That's how they do it. But how these big guys do it to keep a consistent profile. But then again, think about it. And some people do, but the people that do don't care. You drink Jack Daniel's Old No. 7 today, finish that bottle, and then pick up another bottle. I guarantee you it's not from the same batch, or it might be from the same batch, but it's, so their batch consistency is good. Don't get me wrong. You still know it's Jack Daniel's, but the people that are going through it, I'm going to say it like this, going through it that fast aren't going to give a shit, really. They're just like, hey, it tastes good. They might notice a difference, but they're mixing it with Coke or whatever, or they, are finishing fifths of it and they need to, calm down. But, that's kind of where I'm at. For the whiskey nerd like myself, obviously, we embrace those subtle differences and those changes of grain profile and the wood impact. And that's why single barrels and special picks from the distillery are so much fun, because yes, it's the same thing that you could get their small batch, but this one, it was aged maybe a little bit longer in the hotter part of the warehouse or whatever, or it had a real spicy note or something on it. And that to me is what's really intriguing. Yes. Do I love the base offerings? Yes. But it's those little one-offs to where this one got a little blue cheesy, didn't it? That's a little strange, right? So, I mean, that's my, as the nerd, but I'm also not the type of person that's, going out and picking out the bottom shelf bottles either. So it just kind of depends upon how you want to throw that wrench, I guess, because,
And also the big boys are doing, they're treating their stuff. Jack Daniel's No. 7 is a fine product. I got nothing against it. But it's, it's going to be charcoal filtered, and that's going to smooth out a lot of inconsistency. Mm-hmm. I've done some messing around with, not for any of our products, just purely academic, charcoal filtration of a barrel of bourbon, and it was wild how much it came out like No. 7. It was really shocking. Okay,
that's kind of cool.
And so I learned a lot on that one. I was like, wow, this tastes remarkably like Jack Daniel's. And it was in our bourbon, it was our bourbon is just a heavy cherry cola flavor. And so just depending on what you're putting through there, you really get different effects. And so there's a lot to smooth it away. Chill filtration will do a lot. We don't chill filter. We don't even have the capacity at the distillery, chiller wise. We just never invested in it. When I was, working with Pendleton, chill filtration does a whole ton to smooth stuff out. And so there's ways of processing those by those large guys that can make it very consistent. But I'm like you, I want to taste something that has a little bit more personality, a little bit more character. I'm a big believer in character is created through adversity, and whether that's going to be in the individual or whether that's going to be in the flavor profile that comes out of our corn and our rye, that's true. And these harsher conditions, they make something really special. And that's why it's kind of amazing to see what's happened in craft distillation right now, because you have these little pockets of great distilleries everywhere. If you haven't had Cedar Ridge Murphy Quint on, you gotta. Murphy's amazing.
I've been working on him for a minute.
Yeah, and he's incredible. And to see what they're doing in the middle of the country, what folks are doing in the Great Lakes, what they're doing in the Northeast and Northwest, what they're doing by you. I cannot imagine distilling down in Waco area. Oh my God.
No, it is. It's harsh.
It's got to be insane. And so these are all manifestations that we're going to wind up seeing ultimately best in American single malt, which is going to be the coolest experiment of the malt.
Absolutely. Because I can tell you, being an American single malt connoisseur, I guess you could say, and kudos to all the ones that fought so hard to get it an actual category. Like, and I know Doug was a fervent about all of that and pushing it forward and stuff like that. But like when you taste stuff from like Westland and Westward, and then you taste stuff from Stranahan's, and then you get to some Cedar Ridge or some Driftless Glen, and then you go, to
Andalusian.
Yeah.
What Moose is doing.
Absolutely.
It's just phenomenal.
Moose is a really good friend of mine, and I love him to death. He is a madman, and he is doing things that people are like, why are you doing that? He goes, you'll see in 3 years why I'm doing that. He just changed all of their peated malt. They were doing like a 10 or 15% peated malt. Now they're doing 45 because he says the malt character, the peated malt character just wasn't where we wanted it. We wanted it to be like a smokier Isla type Scotch profile, and it just wasn't that. And so like they're doing these changes, and it's really cool. And then you get up to the Northeast with like and this is going rye whiskey, but like people like Dad's Hat and all of those guys up there. They are doing such cool things, and they're, like I was saying earlier, staying in their lane, and they're just doing them and doing cool stuff. And we're going to see like they did in Scotland, we're going to see regionality. And people are going to say, I want some of the West Coast stuff. I want some of the East Coast stuff. I want some of this middle stuff. I want some Texas, obviously. Everybody's already on. You can get Texas pretty fast. I'll tell you that. 2 years, you're good at no.
Which is honestly, you raised a point. I mean, people ask all the time, because I've been a member of the American Single Malt Whiskey Commission for some time. And I do get the question, like, why didn't you put an age requirement on it? And it was entirely because of Texas and the hotter states. Because if we, as a commission, had said, well, it's got to be a minimum of 4 years, that's kind of cuts out everybody that deals with heat. It just wouldn't work. And then you wouldn't have a Santa Fe Spirits in the same way. You wouldn't have a Whiskey Del Bach in the same way. And you certainly wouldn't have a Balcones.
No, you wouldn't. And they are, and then you have distilleries like Still Austin, that's doing their slow water reduction and stuff like that, just to get a 5-year-old, a 6-year-old product out on the shelf, because like either it's going to evaporate or it's going to be so hot and overly tannic that you won't be able to drink it. So they're doing everything they can to keep the whiskey in the dang barrel as long as they can. And I think that's I've talked about this multiple times. Texas whiskey is only 20 years old at max. So like, come on, like give us a little bit of more time to kind of get our feet wet. Is Texas whiskey doing great? Yeah, it is, but we got a lot of room to grow too. So,
I say this, I say this all the time, but I mean, you look at where American single malt as an expression is going to send us, and these cultural influences, these regionality influences, and these culinary influences. And you look at the size of Scotland, you compare that to the size of the US, and what we're running right now is the biggest experiment we ever could as professionals. And in 10, 20 years, when everyone has kind of found their little pocket, their little groove to sit in, when everybody's found their couch cushion that best fits their butt, the world, Japanese whiskey, Australian whiskey, they're all going to look at us as like being like, wow, they're really running a massive experiment. And that was part of the intentionality. And in that same 10, 20 years afterwards, bourbon rye is not going to change much.
No.
It's going to largely be the same. And that's fine. Tradition is really important in this industry. But one of the cool things that what's happening right now, and I say all the time, this is the best moment to be a whiskey drinker, is where we're at right now. Because while we like to think of ourselves as moving more forward, we're trying these new daring things, what we're really doing is going back to our grassroots. And in doing so, by growing your own grain, by starting to leave the concepts of commodity within this industry, what we're really doing is returning to our roots that were pre-prohibition.
Yes,
And this
absolutely.
is in where you had influences like Elijah Craig bringing in charred barrels, and down the line, I just brought him up as one insightful man
Right.
who distilled, but where you have these regular folks who have created traditions that have reached out for hundreds of years now. We are returning back to that sort of innovation,
Right.
and it's entirely through looking more in our own backyard and embracing our own communities.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the coolest thing I can imagine. Like, it definitely wasn't like that 20 years ago.
No, absolutely not. And what a lot of distilleries, and we could talk about this because I want to get into what you guys offer as well. But a lot of distilleries are going back to like heritage grains and heirloom style grains, like the Rosen rye, like, all of these heirloom corns and stuff like that. It's really cool to see them reviving these old recipes from the 1800s and just bringing them back and making them new day. And
our corn is one of those. We use an heirloom corn. It's an earth tones corn, so it's a dent corn, but it's multicolored. I mean, there's sometimes you get a cob, it's all green. You get one that's all blue. You get one that's all red. The anthocyanins and the carotenoids in this have a massive effect. And if you were to take a yellow dent right off the stalk, you peel it off, you bite into it, it's still going to taste sweet. There's still a lot of sugar in there. But if you were to do that with an earth tones, it's like biting into a chalk biscuit. It's just, it's very neutral. It's very chalky. It kind of dries out your mouth, but all of those tannins in there affect the flavor down the road. And you get these cola expressions that come out of that corn that are just wild. And so for people out there who find that bourbon is kind of sweet, and lots of people do, there's these heritage corns, if you focus on them, offer you different flavor profiles. We don't need to just stay with yellow dent. I don't blame anyone for doing so. It's great. Right. It's got a good yield, it grows easily, and it tastes good. Right. But there is other things out there, which is why we love using heritage grains too.
Well, and you can see even in the heritage brands, using these heritage, they're starting to do that. They're starting to have special releases that are, doing this, and even, and I'm not trying to talk about it, but even Claremont Steep, the single malt that one, was it Jim Beam made? Anyway,
yeah, I think it's Jim Beam.
I think it was Jim Beam. Anyway, it's not good, but they're trying, they're trying to, but and we have to give them that benefit. So like they went steamroller forward, and now they're having to come back and meet up with everybody else who was just doing their own little thing. And then one of the other things that someone had told me, and you can tell me if I'm wrong, but I think I'm right. A lot of times with American single malt, especially, a lot of that came from a brewing background. So it was very strict on yeast and sanitation and all of these things. Whereas in Scotland and things like that, they were just distillers. They didn't care about the yeast was just to do the thing. Now you're getting more of these esters and congeners and all of these things. And it's a totally different product. And we're using, caramel 50 and some black patent malt and all of these things just to give it extra flavors and make it more complex. And I love it. I really do love it. Now, don't get me wrong. I love a good bourbon. I love a good rye whiskey. I love all of the things, but there's something with American single malt. You can have one from this distillery and one from this distillery. It's the same thing. And they taste completely different. And you're like, what is going on? Like, I don't see how that can be. And that's what makes it so cool. And so,
it's entirely because it's new expressions, it's new ideas. It's where the energy is being put right now. And as you said, I think one of the things that needs to happen with even bourbon and rye is to test out the raw grains. And with our rye, like as I indicated, we are using just a normal winter rye. There's nothing special about the grain, but the conditions that's grown in make it special. And for the rye of all of our products, for the rye to be the one I like the most is wild, because I've always been a single malt head, and this rye is so interesting. It has this candied orange quality about it. Like when you take an orange slice and you cure it in sugar for weeks, and it comes out and it's almost gelatinized, but it's delicious and you can eat the pith. Like it's got that quality. And these are all artifacts that are coming from this challenging environment that we grow in. So where we are right now, mainstream stuff is wonderful. I still love a bottle of Four Roses, but that's never going to lead the way. it's never going to be the innovation that takes people to the next level. And it will be your local small distillery that's really setting the trends for the future that the big guys go on to follow.
Speaking of innovation, something came to my head right when you said that. I'm not trying to poo-poo this distillery at all. Woodford Reserve is coming out with its some new release, right? It's not the double oak, but it was like extra oaked or something like that, and it's innovation and blah blah blah, and it's 15 years old. I'm like, no, you forgot about it in the warehouse, and it sat in the back and got over oaked. Like, that's what it is. It's not innovation. Yeah. It's just you released it. It was over oaked and it had a weird profile. That's it. That's not innovation. Anyway, that's my soapbox. But okay, so now I wanted to kind of dip into you guys's what your offerings are. I know you do all types of stuff. So kind of give us a rundown of what you guys all produce. And obviously you said your rye was the favorite. Kind of let us know about those.
Well, I'm going to knock out the non-whiskey things right away, which is we offer a 100% rye vodka called High Ground. That's cool. Delicious and spicy. I've always found vodka to be it's really maligned, I think, for some good reasons and also unfairly at the same time. Mm-hmm. The key thing that drives me crazy about vodka is just the bitterness on the back end. So we solve that, and it ends really sweet, which is really nice, and you can drink it straight. We offer a coffee liqueur called Evil Bean. That's a partnership with a local roastery out here called Alpen Sierra. It's quickly becoming our doorbuster when it comes to opening up doors for us, getting us into new accounts. It's just so broad appeal and so lovable. It has so much of a coffee flavor that it's kind of, even cynics like me really, really enjoy it. And then we also have, now getting into the more exciting stuff, we have the bourbon, which is going to be 60% earth tones corn, 20% rye, 10% barley, and 10% wheat. Coming up at this first release is our oats. I wound up putting the kibosh on the oats. It was just too difficult to grow here. It was one that this environment really did not enjoy. And then it also just was hard on all of our equipment. So we replaced that with wheat. C'est la vie. It's just functionality. I can't have people miserable to make a product that's so important to us. Yeah. But honestly, that has this nice cherry cola and caramel. It's all done in these number 3 char American oak barrels. We've done a variety of barrels in the past, whether it's going to be Kelvin Barrel Mill or Seguin Monroe. The majority, and now going ahead exclusively Seguin Monroe for the near future. They're 36-month air-dried staves. This is a wine cooperage. I love working with wine cooperages for whiskey. I know that doesn't sound cool, but honestly, they just make such good quality barrels. Yeah. And Nancy Freely, if we're going to be talking about wonderful blenders, I mean, she gave me a direct school on distillers need to use better barrels, and I could not agree with her more. Right. We also have the rye, the Minden Mill rye, which is this candied orange thing that I described. That's 80% this winter rye, 10% wheat, 10% barley. Okay. And that is, that's the one that I think is really getting a fair amount of attention. Mm-hmm. So I had the cat was eating my bunny's hay. I got animals.
You got a farm. You got a farm in the garage.
Yeah, I do. I like them. So the rye is just phenomenal. Just got a platinum at the Ascot Awards. Wow. So Fred really liked it. That's extremely exciting for us. To me, this is something that's extremely unique. It is familiar enough for rye drinkers for it to be absolutely a new kind of avenue within that category, but that candied orange thing really diminishes the black pepper you typically get that drive away certain bourbon drinkers. And so it's very, very, very special whiskey that I have never had anything quite like it before, but extremely well balanced. Awesome. And then we have the American single malt, 100% malted barley. It's going to be our own barley. That's going to be aged in our emulated Scottish rickhouse. Okay. That's going to be a combination of new oak, some used bourbon, our used bourbon coming up in the future for the first few releases, it's going to be before we inherited our own barrels back into the program.
Right.
And then a certain amount of STR, shaved toast rechar, for folks that heard the beginning of this interview. And then Oloroso sherry casks. There's some PX that may or may not make it into future batches, depending on what we're going to do with it. But definitely Oloroso. It's it is a fruit compote, just jammy Speyside style, or at least Speyside influenced single malt. That another one that got a platinum at the Ascots. Wow. So the huge recognition for both those. The bourbon got a gold. Bourbon has come up with its own amazing reviews in its time. Lots of golds, lots of double golds. But just on that one award, a gold, platinums on the other. This is the core of what we're offering in the future of our distillery. We make the vodka, we make the coffee liqueur, but we are a whiskey house, and this is those other two. We love them. We put our heart and soul into them, but in time, all of that is to grow the real cause of what we're trying to do, which is to make world-class whiskey. And for those of you out there, our price point's always pretty low. It's like $45. Oh wow, where you are. So we're really poised to grow. Launching a new brand. We only launched maybe 6-8 months ago, something like that.
Oh wow.
Launching in that early phase where the industry is facing a little bit of headwinds gave us a lot of insight as to how to best do it. And I think we've been incredibly lucky to have the challenges laid out, known challenges laid out before us, and making it affordable and making it a tempting buy has been a big one for us. Right.
So if you don't mind me asking, what are the age statements on the whiskey?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. 4-year on the bourbon and the rye, and 5-year on the malt. We're laying down what we can for additional years and for specialty things. But yeah, for the time being, our flagship is going to be the 4 for the bourbon and the rye, and then 5 for the single malt.
Awesome. No, I think that's a great, a great age, because I've seen some a lot younger. I've seen some older, and I don't know, like everybody says Kentucky style bourbons are great at 6 to 8 years, but I don't know. I've had some younger ones that are really nice. I've had some older ones that are okay too. So I think it's really dependent upon your particular climate, and obviously you have a couple of climate controlled ones as well. So that'll help get you the profile you're looking for, but you're not looking for that Kentucky style profile either. So it's kind of one of those things. We're wanting to replicate it so that it matures in because when people drink bourbon, they expect it to taste like Kentucky bourbon. Most people, not me, but when they drink a bourbon, they think it should taste like Elijah Craig or Wild Turkey or something like that. They don't expect some of the other things, like when they drink Texas whiskey or bourbon, they get their head blown off thinking, oh, I'm drinking lighter fluid that had wood chips in it. That's what they think when they drink Garrison or something like that. They don't understand that we're just doing what we got to do. So I mean, I feel the 4 years is really it's a great age statement.
So for folks out there who don't really know how harsh a dry climate can be on maturation, we tried it at first, and we were losing on average 2 to 3% to Angel Share per month.
Oh my gosh.
5% per year is about what you should expect from year one.
Right.
And so to be able to get up to, those 3% a month was pretty rocky.
Yeah.
And so that's why we had to climate control. I mean, that's the headwinds that dry climate distillers have to deal with. And there's lots of different ways of doing it. This is the one we chose. And I honestly think it's just, I think it's a great way of solving an issue. What I would like to do in the future is experiment to see if water additions can really help. And really, once we get this flagship established, I have big ideas.
If you don't mind me asking, what is your barrel entry proof?
It's usually around 121, 120, something like that.
Okay.
No, ask away. And bottling proof is at 94. We don't do any chill filtration. We were even seeing some flocculation at 92, which I'm not sure is even possible, but we saw it was enough to me. It was close enough for me to say, yeah, let's kick it up another couple of proof points.
Right.
The ester load and the congener load on what we have is pretty phenomenal.
Right.
Really, really tasty whiskey, and I just wanted to make sure it's still presented very well in the bottle.
Oh,
Plus,
yeah, right.
You can add your own water if you want, or ice, or whatever you want to do.
I actually tell people to do that. You know, obviously, drink it as the distiller had it in front of you. Add a couple of drops of water. Add an ice cube or whatever. Try it at all those different ways and find the way that it tastes the best to you. Because there's, you know, like in Scotland, they watered their scotches down to below 40% a lot of the time. And that's just how they drink it. So don't think you have to have it at cask strength. You know, I mean, yes, try it as it's on the bottle, but yeah, I mean, so do you have any special edition bottles or anything you guys are fixing to come up with?
Yeah, I'll attempt. I think I've spoiled this one enough that we have a few different we have a few different kind of specialty things that we're going to be releasing. I'll just kind of give a sneak peek on one because I don't have a timeline on this. Check mindenmill.com as you know for our insight into the future. But maybe some point this fall we might be releasing a floor malted American single malt that's aged in orange wine barrels, where the previous folks before I got there made their own orange wine. And so this is another all hands on deck, entirely inclusive in-house project. But the floor malting stuff that we did is really incredibly tasty. And honestly, I think that's one of the best single malts I've ever had in my life.
Wow.
And I can say that because I this is stuff that was put in the barrel before I got there. So I'm going to be just objective. I should say it's terrible and everything got better when I got there. Not the case at all. Everything that they did is phenomenal. And I just get to be the proud stepdad.
There you go. So tell us kind of the difference since you brought it up. Tell us the difference, what you think, and this is personal opinion, obviously, the difference between floor malting and just regular malted.
Oh God, it's so great when you can try them side by side. I don't think I really understood the depth of the added umami, the chewiness, the additional mouthfeel, the whole gumminess that really increases when you're using floor malted. The entire thing is just a more luxurious experience.
Okay.
I mean, it's hard to explain. It is a sensory hit that you just don't get in any other fashion. And when that comes out, I mean, I please, if you have to fly to the distillery to pick up a bottle, please do, because you're not going to try anything like it again.
Wow. That's awesome. And I've heard, a lot about floor malting and I've even talked to a couple of maltsters on the show, and yeah, they're like, floor malting's the way to go. It's just arduous. It's just hard work. And, it's a lot. So we don't do a lot of it because it's hard. But monkey shoulder got its name for a reason. Right. So, but yeah, no, it's really interesting that how something that people wouldn't think that's simple. It's not simple, obviously, but just something like malting, how different it can make a whiskey taste. And that's just one aspect of one thing in the whiskey, So think about like you guys said you were using new oak and used oak, like the differences in the oak profile, the differences in the warehouse placement. I mean, it is so amazing to see craft distilleries like yourself going out there, kicking ass, taking names, and also producing a product that obviously is winning hell of awards. So like, it's not just, one person saying that, yeah, it's not you tooting your own horn over here. It's actually,
oh God, no, I hope no one thinks that. Like I'm here to toot the horn for everyone that I work with. Like, let me toot their horn. Right.
But it's like, true. if you're winning these awards and doing all of these things, it's obviously a thing. And that's what's really cool. And I feel, and I've said this before, but I feel that whiskey drinkers are becoming more informed. And they're like, if I'm going to spend, because, we're all having to work a little harder for the money that we have. If I got to spend an extra, money on a bottle, I want that bottle to come from someplace where I know these people put their time, money, and energy into it. And I feel like that's why craft especially, and I promote it a lot, so that's just me, but I feel like craft especially is taking a little notch up to the heritage brands as of right now. And I could be wrong. It could just be marketing fluff. They might be, sitting on barrels. I mean, they just came out with the new Eagle Rare 12 year, and it's only $50. So, because you can buy it for $50, right off the shelf, right?
Mm-hmm.
No, you're not going to be able to buy that. It'll be $200 on secondary market. So yeah, anyway, enough said.
I mean, I craft is always going to lead the way, and whether it's well-funded craft or the mom and pop shop down the street, it's a philosophy, and that approach to saying we're going to challenge things, we're going to do things a little bit different. There's purpose behind what we do. It's not just to make money. It's to make a stake in the history of what we're doing, to claim it in the same, where I'm out here in gold and silver country, to lay a claim on something means something.
Absolutely.
And if we are going to leave our mark on whiskey, we're going to do it our own way. And we're going to be doing it by bringing a little bit of the Carson Valley to the rest of it. This is whiskey that can only come from here. That is the key thing to remember. And people like it, which is the best, most flattering thing. I didn't have any doubts that people were going to like it. It's too good of stuff. But to see the responses that we get, it's very flattering, because at the end of the day, what you want to see is that the efforts of what you're trying to communicate in the bottle are easy to understand and are relatable to other people. And that's what we're seeing that folks are seeing and drinking our whiskey the same way that we make it and want them to see it. And that's cool as can be. It's just another form of communication. It's a good one though.
Well, and that's all you can ask for, to relay a message, and that message be well received, and people like it, and that pushes forward to another day to go out there and try and do it again tomorrow. And that to me is really cool. And I just want to, and not to toot your horn, I just want to congratulate you for putting the long, hard years in, because I know it's not an easy craft. To be in craft distilling. I know it's not easy for people to do, but I just want to congratulate you on doing all the hard work, and hopefully for you, this is paying off, and this is turning into something you can retire on. You know what I mean? And I'm not saying you're going to retire. I don't want you to retire, but I'm saying like you said, staking your claim. Yeah. You can stake your claim in this and put your name, not only Minden Mill's name, but your name behind something, and be like, I totally am behind that. Like you've done in the past, but I want, it's just when people like yourself are putting the years, and I'm not just saying months, but they're putting years into this, it just shows your true craftsmanship in it. And I want to congratulate you.
I appreciate that, man. I feel like the luckiest guy in the world. Getting in when I got in was kind of a cheap ticket to a really interesting future. Yep. And at times I wanted to walk away. I just was like, how am I ever going to make this pay the bills? Like, how am I ever going to succeed? But to those of you out there, it's a lot of luck. If you see luck come your way, please recognize it. It's skill, but but it's mostly luck, and being appreciative for what you got and saying thank you is going to get you a lot further than being a total hard ass. Don't be a hard
absolutely ass. And don't be a douche. Don't be a douche about it either. You know what I mean? Like, don't be like I'm the best thing since white bread. No, you're not. You're you are who you are. And Drew, when I was talking to Drew Hannish, he said something about he was talking to different distillers, and he goes, is there even really a master distiller? What is it like to be a master? You know what I mean? Like, it's one of those things where I would consider you that, right? But like, you have to put the hours and the tears and the blood and the sweat and all of the things into it. Pushing buttons on a machine, that'll make you a master of nothing until you've done the hard yards in that hit.
It's honestly the more years I spend in this, the dumber I feel, which is probably it. I as long as I can keep on doing that, I'm probably on the right road.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right, Joe, why don't you tell us where people can find not only yourself, if you want them to follow you, but find the distillery and any social media that y'all have. I will make sure and have it linked down below. And I would just want to thank you so much for coming on here, hanging out with me, dropping the hammer of knowledge for everything that you guys are doing. I can tell that you're very avid about your brand and about just everything that Minden Mill is doing right now, and I'm super excited about it. Now you've stoked a fire in me, which is a big deal. So I appreciate all that.
Take a look at mindenmill.com. I mean, that's number one. That's if you want to come in for a tour, if you want to see what the facility is all about, mindenmill.com. Just Minden Mill on Instagram is another great way to see what's going on. We need to build those likes, and we're still new, so we haven't quite tripped into that part of the algorithm where they make it happen for you.
Mm-hmm.
It'll come. You can find me on it. I'm very, very rarely on Instagram, but if you want to see the occasional pet photo, Joseph OS on Instagram. And if I could just give a quick little plug for a couple of friends of mine,
please do.
You can catch me also on occasion on Discord at the Whiskey Lodge, as well as the aficionados Discords. They're good people out there and really good, amazing wealth of knowledge about whiskey on both of those.
Yep.
And so those are kind of the best ways to find our stuff, to find good reviews. Subreddits for American Single Malt is always really a pretty good one for us. That's the beginning, at least. And I hope everybody takes a chance. If you see us, we're in 12 states right now, I believe. We're looking to be in half the country by the end of the year, and the full country by the end of next year. So in time, Minden will come and invade your land. Just give us a shot. Tell us what you think. And then, of course, if you're not going to support Minden Mill, please support your local small distillery and your local small liquor stores. I love the folks at Total Wine. They're great. They've always been nice to me. They're doing just fine. So don't forget about your local guys down the road, because they're really the heart and soul of everything we do. And
Absolutely.
I don't have a job without them. So thank you all, independent liquor stores out there.
And if you don't have Minden Mill in your local liquor store, ask for it. Because what happens if you ask for it, they will say, hey, okay, I'll get some. And then Joe will hear about it. And the next thing you know, we're in Podunk, Egypt, selling whiskey. So that's how you get whiskey to store. Now they might want you to buy a case of it. So I don't know the legalities of it, but do that, because that's going to help everybody in the long run. It's going to get more people to see it, but it's also going to build a relationship with you and the liquor store as well. So Joe, I can't thank you enough for hanging out with me. All right, guys, this has been an excellent episode. Y'all know what to do. Drink water. It's freaking hot outside. So just drink water. And until next time, keep your spirits up. Peace out.